Ah, middle school. The time no one really wants to remember. The summers were always a blast, though. I spent a lot of time going to flea markets, antique stores, and hanging out with friends. Huh. Nothing else has really changed from now. Well, the reason I bring up the flea market is because that's where all this stuff came from. I didn't go on eBay until maybe 2020, so every single thing until the 20s was all found in person, which just adds to the enjoyment of collecting. I could tell you where I got almost everything in my collection, and that to me is what I love about collecting, is the story behind it. 2012 was a big year for me. That's when my family moved to a new town. I was given this long room as a bedroom. I actually have no photos of what my bedroom originally looked like. Considering I didn't really collect as a main hobby besides Lego, it makes sense. Bed, dresser, TV, that's all you get. Then slowly but surely, little bits of my addiction pops up. First it was the Lego table, then you have all the vintage cameras, Pepsi, and of course, VHS. I don't want to get ahead of myself though. Let's go to 2013. This is where it really started. In 2013, my dad started and finished construction of the basement. Drywall, ceiling, carpet, all the goods. When he was designing out the basement, he built a room around the furnace. Everyone's thinking, what should this room be used for? And that's when my sister, the same one who bought the Wii, walked over and said, you should ask Dad to make it a Nintendo room. There you go. Fit in some TVs, couple shelves, and there you have the very first game room.
I'm here with I'm going to do a tour of my Nintendo room, and, gaming room, and, of course, you're probably thinking, whoa, what's a gaming room? Yeah. Donkey Kong fell, and Princess Peach is upside down, and Bowser is filled with fish food, so they aren't holding up good, but I mean, it's a Mario fish tank. Who wouldn't say no to that?
Upstairs in my bedroom, I had my NES and a couple of games, but it wasn't prominent. In fact, I kept my Nintendo set up underneath my Lego table. The Nintendo room was the first time I took an interest in continuing to collect not just NES games, but everything else.
Oh! Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Oh!
I like what you're doing with this place.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Hey, who's this little guy?
Oh, I found him in a maze. His name's Jumper.
Why?
See?
Why'd you name that?
Oh God! Oh God!
After 2014, this is where things get a little wacky. I'm not sure why I was so indecisive on where I wanted to store my crap, but in 2015 I moved everything upstairs to my bedroom, and the basement room became dormant. We took that big square Lego table, split it in half, and made it into a super long table. Parallel to that was a very small gaming setup. One moment that really jump-started the collection is when we found someone selling a bunch of NES games out of a storage unit, along with a box Power Glove and even a power pad. Thus began the lifetime goal to collect every single NES game. The CRTs sitting on the TV stand were all found in the trash, except for the Admiral, which was my childhood TV.
Sega games here. We got our Atari games, and then we got some Coleco games. We got B-17 Bomber.
In the same year, you guessed it, we moved the room again. Yeah, that long Lego table lasted about 5 months.
Those three TVs, right here, and then over here I had the NES games, and then all these cameras. Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew, but they were right over there.
I had Loot Crate for a bit. Those previously mentioned NES games are in a shoe rack. My dad's friend donated a bunch of his childhood Intellivision games, and besides the usual flea market finds, if you can notice it, I started collecting vinyls as well.
Son of a...
In less than a month, I changed the room again, and took a lot of influence from James Rolfe on how he did his rental store and nerd room. I tried to display my games and box stuff a bit better. I even tried to separate the game room and the bedroom by making partial walls with the shelves, which will foreshadow a future room change. Okay, 2016. What's really fascinating is seeing certain collections grow and others shrink. The Lego table, which was a big staple of the room, has now shrunk to a 3-tier shelf in the corner. VHS gets its own shelf, same with Pepsi, Loot Crate junk, cameras, everything has a shelf. It's very hoarder-like. I had a short phase of wanting to have this sort of counter or bar top, but my parents stopped allowing me to keep Pepsi to drink upstairs, so that didn't last very long at all. You might be wondering how in the span of a couple months things go from tiny to huge. Well, a lot of people gifted things or donated to me because either they were going to sell it or throw it away. So they hear about this 13-year-old kid who loves VHS tapes. Sure, give it to him. In this case, my other sister's ex-boyfriend gave me all of his VHS tapes. Keep in mind, this was the beginning of legacy sequels too. So Vacation, Dumb and Dumber 2, Jurassic World, Ghostbusters 2016, Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Along with my previous knowledge of 80s and 90s pop culture, it certainly didn't help my addiction with new stuff being released. Finally, near the very end of the year, that's when we installed those big old shelves. Those were built by my dad, and they were able to display a lot of the more bigger boxes. Some of you guys might recognize them because they were in the Blitzwich game rooms for a very long time.
What was that?
There's a chemical inside that's poisonous and it can kill you.
"2017. Uh-oh, what happened? Where is everything?" Yep, we shoved everything back down to the basement. With my interest in movies growing, I ultimately decided that I do need to separate the game room and my bedroom. I mean, I had so many VHS tapes, I came home from school one day to see the whole shelf ripped off the wall. So the bedroom became a hodgepodge of Pepsi, music, and movies, and the basement became the game room. Anyways, back to the basement game room. The TVs never left the wall, so it was just a matter of moving everything back down with some new shelves, and that's that. Some of you might be wondering why in the world we had 3 TVs on the wall. Well, my dad had this idea of having a TV for each console, so someone could be playing the PS2, I could be playing the NES, someone else could be playing GameCube or the Wii or whatever. They're also used for multitasking, so if you wanted to watch a movie or a TV show while playing a game. Real quick, I decided to make a diagram of the rooms to see how things evolve, mainly because I'm not exactly the best cameraman sometimes. Just keep an eye out on how the Lego table shrinks and the games grow. It's pretty interesting. Well, what happened after 2017? This is where you guys might start getting familiar with how the rooms were displayed. Why? Because this is when we put up the wall.